Hey, what's up guys? So this is Neo. Today we're going to learn how to make a website using HTML. In this video, we're going to talk about what HTML is, what it's used for, and how you use it. And also, towards the end of the video, we're going to talk about the different kinds of tools you'll need to get started so that you can follow along and learn as we go. So, to get started, why don't we define what HTML is? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and this is the programming language you will use to create websites or web pages. And the way it works is that you use HTML to define the different kinds of elements or objects inside your web page. An example of that is an image, for example, or a video, or text, or links. Basically, any kind of content you can find in your web page is probably an HTML element. Now, you define these elements with HTML tags. Now, to show you what tags are, why don't we open our browser and go over to CodePen. So type in codepen.io. Now, CodePen is a web development tool that allows us to write HTML code and see the output on the fly in the same page as we are writing our code. So this is a very handy and convenient way to test our codes to see if it's working properly. So anyway, once you have CodePen ready, please click on the Start Coding button on the left side, and this should redirect you to this page. And on the upper half part of the page, you would see three panels, and these are what you would call text editors. So you could type in any text there. You could type in any HTML code there. So it's divided into three, like I said. So the first one would be text editor for HTML. The second one is for CSS. And the third one is for JavaScript or JS. So for now, we'll just be focusing on the HTML part. And going back to my example, let's say for this web page, we want to create an article. So an article normally have a lot of paragraphs, right? So let's write a paragraph. In HTML, to write a paragraph, you need to make use of the p tag. So to create a p tag, you need to write a left pointy bracket followed by the tag name, which is p in this case, and then close the tag with a right pointy bracket. Now, this is what you would call an opening p tag. And an opening tag in HTML tells the browser when a certain element would start. In this case, this is telling the browser that this is where our paragraph starts. Now, there's also what you would call a closing tag. So to close the tag, you need to define the same thing, but after your left pointy bracket, instead of writing the tag name, you need to first write / and then the tag name and then right pointy bracket. Now, this is now saying that this is where your paragraph starts and this is where your paragraph ends. So normally, in between that is where you write the content of the paragraph itself. So in this case, let's say, I love web development. So in the output below, you should be able to see our paragraph, I love web development. Great. So again, this is what you would call an opening tag, which tells the browser when the element starts, and the closing tag, which tells the browser when your element ends. Now, let's have another example. Because this is an article, I think we should have a title as well. So for titles, I think you could use header tags. And header tags are basically tags that create large text or bold text, which is really useful if you want to emphasize any sort of text, like a title, for example. So you have 6 kinds of header tags. So you have H1, H2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Each one is larger than the other. So the largest one would start at H1. So that's what we're going to use for this example. So just like the p tag, we need to define when the title or the header starts and when it ends. So let's say our title is HTML. So in our output below, we should be able to see a large text with bold weight, and below that is the paragraph that we created earlier. So these are now examples of basic HTML tags. Now in the next one, I'd like to give you another example. How about if we want to make a hyperlink or an anchor? So for that, we need to make use of the A tag, which obviously stands for anchor. Now, just like the H1 and the P tags, we need to define when the anchor starts and when it ends. And in the middle is the text that you want the user to click on. Now, there is one crucial difference about the A tag. For the A tag, you need to define what we call an attribute. So there are different kinds of attributes out there in HTML. Some of them are exclusive to a handful of elements, and some of them are available to most, if not all, of the HTML elements. In this case, the href attribute, this is only available in a handful of elements, one of them being the A tag. And for the A tag, what it does is that it tells the browser where to redirect the users once they click on the link. So in this case, let's say we want to redirect the users to Google, just like so. And in our output down here, we should be able to see our link already. And if we open that in a new tab, we should be able to see Google like so. Cool. Now, there's one more thing I'd like to show you guys, and that's how you create an image in HTML. So again, you type in left pointy bracket. So for images, you need to make use of the img tag, which stands for image. So you type in img, and just like the anchor tag, you need to define an attribute for the image, which is src or source. And this basically tells the browser where to fetch the image that we want to show. So in this case, I already have my avatar uploaded in Imager, and I'm just gonna grab that link and add it in or paste it in here. So you could also have your images in your local machine. That should also work. You just need to define the path that leads to the image. All right. So one difference between the image tag and the rest of the tags is that an image tag is what you would call in HTML as a self-closing tag. So as a self-closing tag, instead of closing the element like this, you instead have to exclude the closing tag. And what you need to do instead is, before you close your opening tag with the right pointy bracket, you need to add in a forward slash, or you could even add a space before the forward slash. It depends on you. It doesn't really make any difference. So this is what you would call a self-closing tag. And you don't really have to worry about whether or not you need to add closing tags to the HTML elements, because most probably you need to most of the time, because there are really only a handful of self-closing tags in HTML, and you probably will be able to familiarize all of them pretty soon once you get to know HTML a little bit more. All right, so just to recap, with H1 and P tags, we were able to learn how to create basic HTML tags. And then with the anchor tags, we were able to learn about attributes. And then for the image tag, we were able to learn about self-closing tags. Great. Now, what about if we want to create the HTML files in our machine instead of CodePen? So before we can do that, we need to have the right tools. Luckily for web development, you only really need two things, and you probably have both of them. One is your text editor. So a text editor is just like, here in CodePen, where you type in your code. And if you're a Windows user, you might have something called Notepad. While in Mac, I think the counterpart is something called TextEdit. And these two are the most basic examples of text editors. If you want to use them, you can. They do the job all right. but there are better text editors out there that I could suggest for you that offers a lot more features that would be very helpful to your web development practice. One of them being Sublime Text. There's also Atom by GitHub and VS Code by Microsoft. So if you go to sublimetext.com, you just search on VS Code as well on Google as well as atom.io. These are the websites for the different kinds of text editors, and all these are free, or at least have a free version, so you don't have to worry about that. You could just go to their websites and download them. So it depends on you what you want to use. All three of these work equally well and provide you ample support for your web development practice. But for this video series, I will be using Sublime Text. So if you want to use that as well, I will be putting a link down below so you can download it on your machine. All right, so I already have it downloaded and installed on my machine. So I'm just going to open that, Sublime Text, and it should look like this once we have it opened. All right, so oops. Right, so this is how the Sublime Text should look like. So this is basically very similar to CodePen. So here we could write the same thing in our CodePen. So let's just maybe copy this and paste this in our Sublime Text. And right now this looks very basic as well. Over here you could find the map, basically an overview. Very helpful if you have a very long document, but for now it's very hard to appreciate this feature. And there's also like the directory feature on the left side, but currently I don't have that configured because this is a fresh install. But maybe I could show you guys different kinds of features in Sublime Text later on. But yeah, for now let's just paste our code from CodePen and then save this file. So a few things you should learn about HTML. An HTML file always had the file extension .html. And one thing about naming your HTML files is that for your main page, you always want to name them index because this is what browsers tend to look for. So let's name it index.html and save it. So let's go over to our desktop where I saved the HTML file over here. And if we open this with our browser, we should be able to see a similar output to CodePen. Right, so just to recap, we learned about HTML, what it is, what it's for, how you use it. We were able to learn about HTML tags, HTML attributes, and also self-closing tags. We were also able to download and install our first text editor and write our first HTML file using it, and also open it in Google Chrome, just like what we have right here, right now. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to create a proper HTML file with the proper code structure. We'll also dive a little bit into CSS, why they're necessary. But for now, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys liked it. Please click on the like button if you did. Also, please click on subscribe and the notification bell to get updated on future uploads. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.